This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Mark Magnuson.
Hello and welcome into Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today is Thursday, August 24th, 2023, and we're so glad you could join us for today's show. In today's episode, I will visit with Brandon Iddings of the Iowa Soybean Association about an Oxbow restoration taking place in Carroll County. I also have a check of the ag weather outlook, but first, let's run down the markets.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
At the end of another trading day, we are joined now by Kaden Sweeney of agmarket.net for our closing market analysis. Kaden, what are we seeing taking place on the grains today?
Yeah, kind of continuing to see some seesaw action both in corn and beans, that we've kind of seen for a lot of this week. Corn on the day going to be a little bit lower, down 3 cents or so. Beans closing fairly strong, up 12 or so, kind of on the high of the day. But it's kind of been one of those weeks where the market's trying to, get a grasp of what's going on, throughout the Midwest, weather-wise, heat-wise, lack of moisture-wise. There's also people with eyes on the Pro Farmer Tour as well. So I think you're just seeing a lot of market action this week trying to handicap the size of this crop.
And you're right, Kaden. You just have so many different information sources right now pulling our opinions in all different kinds of directions because we don't really know exactly the full picture yet. But we are getting some of those reports from the crop tours. Like you mentioned, the Pro Crop Tour out in Western Iowa here yesterday. And it was kind of some interesting findings. I was wondering, what were your takeaways from what they've been finding on the crop tours so far?
Yeah, from what little I've seen, and I'm not as educated on as I should be, but it seems like about everything I've read seems like people are a little bit disappointed in the corn crop. And really, that's kind of the way it was last year too. Although last year we saw a lot bigger market rally during this time. I guess it caught the market maybe a little bit more off guard last year versus this year. Like I said, we've kind of been back and forth, up and down. Sunday night we had the gap open, both corn and beans looked like we were going to raise higher, and then that kind of came back on Monday during the day session. So again, I think you're just trying to see the market kind of work this thing out, get a hold of everything, and to remember too in the back of the trade's mind, we're trying to get the supply side of things figured out. Demand's pretty important too, and like we've talked about a lot, we're still a little bit behind there.
And Kaden, we always like to talk to you as well because not only do we get great marketing information, but we get to ask you to put on your farmer hat as well and ask you some questions about things that you're seeing. And, here in the state of Iowa, we have seen extreme variability based on where you are, whether it was the moisture that you received or the amount of heat stress that was on the crops in your area. And that's been, kind of widespread throughout the state. So things might look good from the road, for example. You get out of your truck, go down into the field, and things look much different. Is that the same case in Illinois this year where you're located?
Yeah, it's been a crazy year, and really I've been telling people it's a little bit opposite of last year. I feel like last year we were worse during June and July, hotter, drier last year. Then we finished really well in August. This year is going to be quite a bit opposite. We were fairly hot and fairly dry through June and July this year. Not near as bad last year, but this August, at least in my area, we've just been so dry. We're not finishing very well. Talking to a local seed salesman here that covers a pretty wide area, he said they're kind of handicapping this year's crop 10 to 15 bushel lower than last year for corn, 5 bushel lower for beans. That's kind of about on par with what I would guess. I'm not going to say that's the case for all of Illinois. I know you get up north of me, Bloomington, Champaign area. They've got a lot more rain during the first half of August. It's certainly been hot there this week, but I think they got enough rain there early on to kind of make them a little bit better, and that's better ground than I'm farming too. So I think Illinois as a whole is still going to be pretty strong corn number. I think I'm pretty confident we're going to be above 190. It wouldn't really shock me if we were above 200 as a state, but my immediate area, we are a little bit lower than last year probably.
So Kaden, switching from the grains, let's talk livestock. What's happening in the livestock complex today?
Yeah, strong market across all three livestock complexes. All three really up about $2 today, lives, feeders, and hogs too. So, it's one of those deals on the cattle side, we opened pretty strong Monday after last Friday's report. Spent Tuesday and Wednesday kind of giving that back, and then Thursday today. strong market like we talked about, continuing to see good support there at the 20-day moving average. On the hog side, I think I saw that cutouts have been quite a bit lower this week. Pork prices coming down, so that's been represented somewhat in the futures, although we saw a good bounce today. Hopefully kind of finding some support. But from what I read, and I'm not a hog producer, but from what I read, kind of seems like supply may be getting a bit heavy right now. Hog prices may feel a little bit heavy now looking forward into the fall.
And with the market right now, Kaden, in terms of demand from the public, and, we get to this point of the season and you start to think about grilling wrapping up and that type of thing. But where are we at right now with demand in terms of cattle and hogs?
Yeah, like you said, demand probably coming down. It's the time of year for demand to kind of be softening. But really, I don't think we're anything too far out of the ordinary from a normal year, if you will. So to me, that then kind of turns the picture more to the supply side. And then, like we've talked about quite a bit, cattle supply quite a bit tighter than it has been historically. And also, I think, compared to hogs, also quite a bit tighter. So in my mind, that will give the cattle market a bit more of a good foundation and good support as opposed to the hog market.
Kaden, what's the best way for our listeners and our viewers to get in touch for more marketing information?
Yes, sir. Just go to our website, agmarket.net. You can reach anyone from our team there. You can also get turned on to a free trial of our 30-day research and as well as try out our app and anything that we offer. It's all on there, so you can check that out.
And Kaden, as we wrap things up, I have to ask you one more very important question. Riley and I headed to Farm Progress next week in Illinois. You going to get that weather a little bit better for us as we head that way?
I think we're going to be about 30 degrees cooler than we are right now. Heat index here about 110 right now. I was looking ahead low mid 80s next week, so I think we'll be in pretty good shape.
Farm Progress is headed to Decatur, Illinois this year. We're looking forward to it. He is Kaden Sweeney of agmarket.net, our guest here today for our closing market analysis. Kaden, thank you so much for the time as always, and we will speak again soon. Have a great day.
Appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
That was Kaden Sweeney of agmarket.net. Let's turn our attention now to the closing numbers, courtesy of the folks at Bar Chart. September corn down 4 even at 472 1/4. New crop December corn down 2 1/4 at 488 1/4. September soybeans up 6 1/4 at 1365 3/4. New crop November soybeans up 11 1/4 at 1371 3/4. October soybean meal up 11.10 at 415.60. October soybean oil down 64 cents at 63.68. Chicago wheat down 8 even at 631 3/4. Minneapolis wheat down 4 even at 799 1/4. Kansas City hard red wheat down 1 1/4 at 762 1/2. On the Merc, October live cattle up $2.05 at 180.72. September feeder cattle up $2.17 at 250.75. October lean hogs up $1.92 at 80.47. August pork cutout down 28 cents at 110.72, and Class 3 milk down 5 cents at 17.19. And that's been a check of the Ag Market Recap here on Ag Matters PM. It's time now to take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. And when we come back, I will be joined by Brandon Iddings, so we're going to learn all about a new Oxbow restoration in Carroll County. This is AMPM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today, I speak with Brandon Iddings of the Iowa Soybean Association about an Oxbow restoration in Carroll County.
It's time to go between the pods with the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network and the Iowa Soybean Association. For the next year, we will explore the ways Iowa-grown soybeans are making a difference at home and around the world. Now, here's your host of Between the Pods, Mark Magnuson.
Mark Magnuson for the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and I'm here today with Brandon Iddings. He is with the Iowa Soybean Association, and we are located in an Oxbow today. And we will get into what an Oxbow is in just a moment and let everybody know about what we're able to see here today in this central Iowa area. And Brandon, first of all, could you tell us, please, what your job description is, what you do day to day at the Iowa Soybean Association?
Yeah, so I'm a field services program manager for conservation resources here at Iowa Soybean Association. I work with farmers to do some of the habitat, prairie restoration, oxbow restoration, edge of field, just kind of anything conservation based is kind of what I do. So.
And Brandon, where are we located at today to get a chance to see this Oxbow in person?
Yeah, over by Glidden, Iowa in Carroll County. It's kind of west central Iowa. Right along Highway 30 here.
And as you can see, we're right on the edge of this Oxbow, and you might hear that term and think, maybe you're like me, Brandon, someone that has heard that term Oxbow, but didn't necessarily know what it was and what its purpose is in the conservation space. Could you tell us, why is an Oxbow something that is becoming, I guess, a little bit more popularized maybe, and something that people should know about?
Yeah, so it's kind of a new edge of field practice. It's part of the nutrient reduction strategy now for water quality. So an Oxbow is an old meander of the stream that over time gets disconnected or cut off as the main channel either flows a new way, straightens a curve. We're kind of in that curve that is disconnected. Over time, these Oxbows fill with sediment from usually the farm fields, and that's what an Oxbow restoration is we come in, dig that sediment out, return it to that old historic stream bed, and that's kind of what the restoration process kind of looks like.
So in a way, it's almost like a farm pond, but it's a little bit more narrow and in the shape of a river, just a disconnected part of the river. Is that essentially what it is?
Yeah, for sure. We make sure we go about as wide as the current river. So in this case, we're on Purgatory Creek. So we measure how wide Purgatory Creek is, kind of fit that channel within this channel here, and that's kind of how we use the elevations as well to dig. We like to get the water table from the creek, see where the water's at in the creek, dig down to that depth in the Oxbow, so the Oxbow will always have water. As much water as in the creek will then be in the Oxbows.
So Brandon, in Oxbow, is it more towards the conservation practice that it is an ideal thing to put on the edge of your field and use as part of that edge of field practices? Is it something that can bring benefit to a farmer? Is it all of the above?
Yeah, so kind of all the above. Most of these Oxbows are in, as you can see here, in the scrub side of the field. The field's 20 yards to the north of us here, and there's a ton of other benefits. The dirt that comes from these Oxbows is usually really good black dirt. We put it out in this crop field to the north of us here, and the farmer was seeing somewhere between 10-20 bushels an acre increase in those couple acres we put that dirt. So immediate benefit. Flood mitigation. A 1 acre Oxbow can hold about 1 million gallons of water. So some of these areas we're doing them where they do have flood damage, if you can restore a ton of Oxbows, you can hold back a lot of water. The habitat side of things, so we're working on the endangered Topeka shiner is another thing. The species recovery plan for the Topeka shiner says that the number one way to recover the species in Iowa is Oxbow restoration. So kind of continuing that, they're kind of multi-purpose. You got all these different benefits to the farmer, benefit to water quality. Oxbows treat roughly 42% of the nitrates that come into them. So it's basically a miniature wetland in that aspect, where this Oxbow, we do have some tile flowing into it. So anywhere where you can intercept tile from the field and dump it into the Oxbow, we're going to see some benefits there as well.
And Brandon, we're seeing those benefits right here today, even as we're just standing here. We saw some minnows floating around in the water. We saw some fish. We're seeing all kinds of deer tracks, and then there's a beaver dam right at the end.
Yeah. So tons of wildlife benefits. We've had beaver in these. Again, these are kind of focusing the beavers in this area instead of damming the streams. They will still dam the streams, of course, but we see a lot of beaver activity about as soon as we restored this Oxbow. We had a beaver coming in and messing around in it. He's going to make that connection channel to the river. But yeah, deer, we have trail cameras up on all these Oxbows, and we're seeing deer tracks, we're seeing ducks, geese, waterfowl. So right now with the drought, the water levels in these Oxbows are a lot lower than they will be normally. Our goal is for them to be completely full, which would actually be about up to our waist is kind of the goal here. When we're in a drought, they're about 2.5 feet shallower than they should be, but there's still tons of benefits for all these other species, and the fish are still using them just like we want as well. So.
And as Brandon says, we're standing kind of on the edge of the Oxbow right now, so we would be in water if it was under a little bit more normal conditions as opposed to the drought conditions right now. Brandon, so let's say this Oxbow, for example, was this due to the landowner coming to you guys and saying, hey, I think I might have a situation where we could expand this into an Oxbow, or was it Iowa Soybean Association? Was it someone else that came to the landowner? How did this come about?
Yeah, so we work with some really good partners. So on this specific Oxbow, we worked with U.S. Fish and Wildlife. They actually did the outreach on this landowner, got them interested. Iowa Soybean then came in. Later on, we've been doing Oxbow restorations with Fish and Wildlife for 3 or 4 years now. They kind of provide the expertise of the restoration and some of these other habitat side of things, whereas we can bring the farmer relationship. Iowa Soybean has great relationship with Iowa soybean farmers, and so we can access our contacts to find these Oxbows, find where they fit, use the expertise, and be able to help soybean farmers kind of do these restorations. Go into the funding aspect. There's a ton of different funding sources available for these Oxbow restorations, and so having us working with Fish and Wildlife and some of these other great partners, we can kind of help the farmer navigate some of those avenues.
Not to put you on the spot, you don't have to give me an exact number, but do you have any kind of numbers for Oxbows just in general in the state of Iowa? And maybe is there some growth being shown? Are people getting more interested in potentially seeing this on their operation?
Yeah, so Oxbow restorations in Iowa have been going on for almost 20 years, maybe a little over 20 years now, and they've done over 200 restorations across the state, mainly in the North Raccoon watershed and the Boone River watershed. Those have kind of been the two main focus areas. But yeah, just in the last couple of years, Oxbow restorations have grown statewide. There's statewide funding now for Oxbow restorations since they've been added to the nutrient reduction strategy. So IDALS has funding, NRCS, USDA has funding sources. These Oxbows we're doing in the North Raccoon are actually funded through the North Raccoon Soil and Water Outcomes RCPP with NRCS that ISA is the lead partner on. So that's where a lot of this funding comes from. NRCS is going to pay up to, I think, 90% of a restoration's cost. And then ISA, with our partners and with some of the private dollars we get from other funding sources, we can then go in and pay 100% cost in certain areas on these Oxbow restorations.
So bottom line, if you think you have an ideal spot that could be an Oxbow, don't rule it out for money reasons, because that's not necessarily the case at all.
Yeah, we can definitely, if you got an Oxbow on your ground, we can find somewhere to at least cost share part of it, if not get the whole Oxbow paid for. It's just another edge of field practice, and there's a lot of different sources of funding out there, and these Oxbows, with how many different benefits they provide, the funding sources are kind of just growing and growing, it seems.
So a farmer, let's say a soybean farmer, watches this interview and says, this could be for me. What would be the next step for them?
Yeah, give me a call. I'll give out my phone number, or we can throw it up on the screen, or email iowasoybeans.com. You'll get a hold of somebody who will get a hold of me, or my name's on the website as well at iasoybeans.com.
So Brandon, is there anything else you'd like to let our viewers, our listeners know about when it comes to Oxbows and the work that you're doing and trying to continue to grow this? It seems like a very interesting space right now.
Yeah, so I just say, if you got a creek on your ground, you probably got some Oxbows, reach out to me. We can at least check it out, do some, these Oxbows, like I said earlier, are usually in scrub ground, so it's not taking any ground out of production. It can make your ground more productive in certain areas if we use the dirt in those kind of bald knobs, those sandier soils, and it's just kind of making the ground more sustainable in the long run. We can those are kind of our 3 pillars at Iowa Soybean, making soybean farmers more productive, profitable, sustainable, and so these kind of can fit into every aspect of that.
And as you can hear, Brandon's pretty passionate about this Oxbow project, so he'd be happy to talk with you. He is Brandon Iddings with the Iowa Soybean Association. Brandon, thanks so much for taking the time to show us this Oxbow today, talk a little bit about it, and best of luck going forward with the project.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you to Brandon Iddings of the Iowa Soybean Association. Let's turn our attention now to the ag weather outlook. Still extremely hot here in the state of Iowa today, as we have the excessive heat warning set to expire at 7 p.m. this evening. Should bring at least a little bit of relief to the state of Iowa and the rest of the Midwest. Tonight, still going to be warm with those lows still in the 70s. And then tomorrow, still a warm day, but not nearly as hot as these past few days have been, where temperatures have gotten up near or even into triple digits. So let's turn our attention now to the National Weather Service and what's in store for the next 24 hours. As you can see from the National Weather Service, excessive heat warning remains in effect until 7 p.m. this evening. It will be mostly sunny today with highs expected 94 to 102. Tonight, mostly clear with scattered clouds and lows expected 70 to 76 degrees. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, then a slight chance for thunderstorms. Highs expected 86 to 95 as things cool down just a bit. And now taking a look at our affiliate weather map for tomorrow. Cherokee, a chance of thunderstorms on Friday, high around 86. Shenandoah, mostly sunny, then a slight chance of thunderstorms, high around 93. Des Moines, a slight chance for thunderstorms, high of around 94. Albia, sunny, then a slight chance of thunderstorms, and a high of 95. Waterloo, a slight chance of thunderstorms on Friday, high around 91. And Clinton, mostly sunny skies, and a high of 91. For a more detailed forecast in your part of the state, make sure and check with your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate. And that's been a check of the Ag Weather Outlook. That also brings us to the end of this episode of Ag Matters PM. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and LinkedIn. And you can find our video content and previous episodes of AMPM on our YouTube channel. Don't forget as well our free twice-daily market podcast on Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Mark Magnuson. On behalf of Riley Smith and Dustin Huffman, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.